Okay, so let me ask you a question real quick. What is the biggest lie that you've ever believed about gear? Because here's the thing, mine is pretty big and it actually has everything to do with this one Mexican Strat. You see, a couple months ago, Fender dropped the Player II mod, and part of it was this Mexican Strat, and the entire thing was a continuation of the Player II series that they had originally come out with last year. Now, me personally, I had never played a Player II Strat, but I had heard some pretty good things, so I thought, why not check it out, see what all the hype is about. So the day finally arrives, I unbox it, I start playing it, and immediately, everything about this guitar just hits me all at once. The noiseless pickups, the switch from Pa Faro back to Rosewood, the feel of the neck. I thought to myself, they might be onto something with this one. I mean, I had the original Player series and I generally liked it, but this one just completely kicked the crap out of that guitar in every way. And the more that I play this guitar, the more that I'm convinced of that. So much so that one day when I'm having one of my famed gear talks with my buddies, but this wasn't just anybody. This was the buddy who years ago was the catalyst behind helping me debunk maybe the biggest myth that I've ever believed about gear. This belief that Fender's MIM line, it just stinks. A belief that I picked up pretty early into my playing journey that I thought I had fully debunked like years ago. But what I didn't realize was that my buddy, well, he was about to point out another one that would completely rock my socks off. So we start talking extensively about this guitar and I start giving him all the details. I'm like, bro, this thing feels amazing. The neck just plays so smooth. It's like out of this world. I know I told you about my Player I Strat back in the day, but this thing right here, it was like 50 times better than that. Now, as I'm telling him this, he starts to get really excited. Hearing about new gear is always cool, but seeing just how hyped I was on this one in particular, he actually decides to ask a really interesting question. You see, he looks at the camera and he says, "So is this your main Strat now?" And right as he asked that, I noticed I was a little caught off guard because this was the new myth, like the new question. Because I had Mexican Strats before that I absolutely loved and used on a regular basis, and I had heard all of the stories of players being like, that one I found in '95 at a random guitar store that beat all of the USA Strats that I had ever played in my life. But this was the first time I had been asked a question about a guitar that I specifically owned, and I knew immediately what the answer to my question would be. So I looked up at my friend, looked straight into the camera, and told him the truth. A swift but sincere no. And I wasn't lying. He said okay, and we continued to talk about our lives and other pieces of gear. But as the conversation ended and we went back to our regular lives, I noticed that this question, well, it kind of kept echoing in the back of my head. And every single time I played this guitar, that same question continued to pop back up, like a little whisper. Is this your main Strat? Is this the non-USA one for you that finally beat the USA models? And every single time I heard that question, my answer was consistently still, probably not. It hadn't been this particular Strat, but what if it wasn't supposed to be? What if there was another guitar that Fender made outside of the USA line that didn't just punch above its weight class, but outclassed some of the others? And that is when I kind of caught wind of a slightly different guitar. But unlike that other guitar, this wasn't a Player II series. You see, a couple of months ago, I got to try for the first time a guitar in a very similar price range to the Player IIs called the Vintera IIs. Except for these guitars were kind of different. They were way less modern, they had all of the vintage era specs, and they were going for kind of a completely different player than those Player IIs. And when I first got my hands on this one, what caught my eye wasn't actually the Strat, it was the Telly. Well, I guess technically it was a no-caster, but you guys know caster what I'm talking about, right? Anyways, I began to play this guitar. Heck, I even partially studied like the history behind no-casters, and it was pretty good, but again, it was sort of the same thing. It just didn't do it for me quite like my American Telly, and right as all hope seemed to be lost, one other guitar ended up coming into the picture that I never would have expected. So this right here is the Vintera II Road Worn, and it is exactly the guitar I want to put up against my American Telly to see if it can outmatch it. That being said, going in, there was a lot that I was used to from the Nocaster that was similar in here, like the alder body, 7¼ inch fretboard radius, and I definitely didn't like that guitar more than my American Telly, but that's where this and that really started to separate itself, especially when it comes to the body finish and the neck. I remember playing some of the Fender Road Worns back in the day just in different guitar stores, but I never knew what they were made of or what they were all about. And I know there were other guitars outside of the USA lines currently, like the Jason Isbell Telly, that also have the nitro finish, but this still caught me off guard. A lot of the lower, even middle of the line American Tellys, like my Susan Tedeschi Signature, they don't even have nitro finishes, which, speaking of that guitar, this is the Susan Tedeschi Signature, and essentially it's just a recreation of a 90s era American standard like the one that she had back in the 90s. I've been playing this guitar for about 6 months and thought it would be a very worthy adversary for the Road Worn. But before I answer the big question, I feel like something's missing. I feel like I don't have enough information. I feel like I don't know the deep details behind the questions I'm about to ask. So I feel like I need to call a friend. Dude, it's been a minute. Let me catch you up real quick. I'm trying to decide between these two guitars, and I remember you saying that you've been to the Made in Mexico factory. Like, you've seen the whole shebang, and I just have so many questions, man. Like, you're the expert. Can you help me out?
Okay, so I was working on cruise ships at the time, and we were docked in Ensenada, and I had a whole music team there, and I think our bass player, Martin Modnick, who's a session guy in town now, arranged it to where we could all go to the Fender factory there. And it was like trying to get into Fort Knox. It took a bunch of paperwork and somehow he made it work. I think there was like, I don't know, maybe 7 or 8 of us that went in. And it was really, really cool. And I was blown away by the quality control. And an interesting fact about it is they said that it is one of the worst places to try to build guitars because it's right there on the coast and the humidity fluctuations drive them crazy and it makes finishing the guitars then crazy. But whoever was the visionary or the boss there, wanted his house on the hill to where he could look down and see everything, and he wanted it there in Ensenada, so that's why they built the factory there. Don't know if that's true, but that's what the guide told us. And we were walking through the factory, and we got to play the Baja Tellys fresh off the line, which is cool. And this is back in, I guess this would have been like 2015-ish, somewhere in there.
So this is my friend Nicky V, and he's probably one of the best session guitar players in all of Nashville, so I figured he knew a thing or two about Tellys.
I feel like just because they're like, oh, it's made in Mexico, it's not as good. And I am hardcore, all about buying American-made everything, but sometimes budgets just don't allow for that. And if you're a 13-year-old kid like I was, and you go down to your local music store, sometimes all you can afford is a used Mexican Strat or Telly, and it's great to have that option. And if you have the ability to buy an American guitar, that's great, support the U.S. worker and everything, but that's not everybody's, personal or financial situation. And if you do end up having to buy a Mexi Telly or Strat, they're great. And I think as far as bang for your buck goes, and I still have a Mexican Strat at my house. It's my first guitar, the first one I ever bought. I've had Americans, I've had, probably 5 or 6 custom shops. And the real difference between them all, typically for me, is the feel of the neck and the attention to detail in the fretwork. But as far as the actual resonance and sound and all that, I think there's little to no difference. It's a total crapshoot, depending on which tier you're getting of Fender. That guitar, the Mexi, definitely has a snappier low end. On the top end, that right there is a little bit more rolled off, which might be a little less shrill or ice picky right here. Yeah, this one has the other than the fretwork, I'm hearing past that. It's definitely brighter, but if you just cock the tone knob back.
Mexican or American, what do you look for in a Telly?
I don't care where it's made, what the story is on it. I'm looking for something that is expressive. And if I can pick it up, start playing it, and immediately it has an extra degree of expression, and I think you can tell right away. Some people call it inspiration factor, but to me it's more of an expression factor. And Like, I feel like I can pull any note out of this guitar I need to pull out of it, except an open low E string that's not rattling. Because these saddles here are less than great. They slotted them, I guess because consumer feedback, they decided to start slotting these telly saddles so your strings wouldn't slide around. Well, the problem is I don't think they did it wide enough, or they messed something up, and so this E string is sitaring, and the D string does a little bit. It's not catching on the fret up here. It's definitely here. But still, the bones of this guitar are great. I don't think that there's any threshold regarding price when it comes to getting a good guitar. When it comes to Fender, other companies it absolutely does. But Fender, to me, you're more likely to get a great guitar as you go up in price, but you can still find outliers at the lower price points that are great guitars. That, you know, maybe it's a 20-year-old Mexican telly, and you pick it up and it just works for you. And but that might be, you know, 1 in 30. Then you get to the American series and it might be, you know, 1 in 3. And then you get to the custom shop and it might be, most of them are pretty dang great. So you got to look a little harder if you're gonna, you know, try to get in on a budget-friendly model. You might have to dig a little bit deeper and play a few more models until you find one that really works for you. That's part of the reason that, you know, you pay the money is you don't have to worry about it. You know, it's going to be more likely to have the fretwork all dialed in. The setup's going to be a little bit better out of the box.
It is different. It like,
Yeah.
It's completely different. Just in like, you can feel it. Like, it's not even just the neck.
Yeah.
Like, this is definitely quote unquote twangier, brighter. So be like completely real with me. How would you rank all 3?
Number 3, go with the Susan model.
Susan model?
And number 2, I would probably go with your pink one here, the one-off custom build. And number 1, I would actually give the one we demoed today, the Mexi. But it needs, only if you put a pair of, you'd have to put like $150 into it, or maybe $200. It needs a pair of Glazer saddles, the Groove Master saddles, and fretwork, and that guitar there I could play the rest of my life and be content.
So here's the deal. Nicky V was very candid about the fact that of those 2 guitars, the Road Worn was his favorite by far. And not just that, he went a little bit further into saying that it was his favorite of all of the Telecasters that I showed him that day. And when the time came, the big moment came for him to ask me the same question back, I knew exactly how I would respond. See, I told him I disagreed. And I think that's the beautiful part about guitars and about gear and loving this whole thing, in that we can have these different takes on things, but then something really weird happened. You see, after Nicky left, I kept playing these guitars. I played these guitars more and more and more, and what I realized was, when I say I played these guitars, what I mean is, I played the Road Worn. The Tedeschi was there. I still loved it. This American telly that I've had for a while, it was still there. But every time I went to pick up a telly, I was picking up the Road Worn. I mean, I had this whole idea for this video format that I was going to say, no, this was not the one that took me away from the American. And I was going to start this whole video series of me trying to find that made in Mexico guitar that finally beat the Americans, because neither the Strat nor the Nocaster nor the telly could. But then I realized the telly did. Like Nicky was saying, this guitar is not perfect. It's not my favorite Telecaster that I own. I mean, my pink one is my favorite guitar that I've probably ever played, but this is a really, really good guitar. A guitar that a long time ago I probably would have said I didn't like because the other one costed more, because the other one was a USA made one, or because of a bunch of other reasons. But I think the moral of the story is sometimes you just gotta pick up a guitar and play it and see which one you like, and not look back. But I don't think it matters what I like. What matters is what you like. So please let me know. What's the best MIM Fender that you've ever played? What's the one that beat all of the Americans for you? What's the one that you think you could keep forever? Let me know in the comments. Anyways, thank you so much for watching this video. It feels like I've been doing a lot of telly stuff more recently, so this felt appropriate. Also, thank you so much for Nicky V for coming on and for just being so kind. One of the best session players, one of the best players you'll ever meet in your entire life. But if you want to know anything more about the Road Worn, got it from the homies at Fender. The links will be in the description. Make sure to check it out. One of the best ways to support the channel, if that's something you want to do. Or if you want to know anything else about any of the other gear that we used in this video, the amps, the pedals, heck, even the camera, I'll have all the links below. Also, thank you so much to all of my patrons. There's some extra exclusive content on there if you want to join the community. Like and subscribe if you had a good time, and most importantly, like most important of all, have a fantastic night.